How's it going, YouTube? Jamie the Kid 00 here, and sorry for the weird angle. I'm currently sitting in front of my laptop trying to edit videos, and they're just taking forever to edit / upload, so I figured I'd produce this little video while I was sitting here staring at some of my prophecy stuff. This video isn't going to be very well formatted because I've literally just kind of decided I want to do this, but I've picked up a few kind of just random prophecy cards that I had kicking around, and I kind of want to talk about some of the more controversial choices and the choices that have been seeing a lot of kind of... I want to say, like, arguments, like, some people are on the right side of playing them. I mean, I guess the biggest example of this is High Priestess of Prophecy. Like, some people really love this card, and I still really like this card, but some people really dislike it. Some people really like this in 3, some people like it in 2, some people like it in 1. Some people really like playing Justice, some people hate playing Justice. And there are so many different variants of Prophecy that are doing the rounds now. I just thought I'd actually talk about some of the, I'm going to call them controversial cards, but the cards that are provoking discussions and arguments, and I'm just going to kind of give my 2 cents. I haven't looked into anything on forums. I'm doing this all by word of mouth, really, so I don't really have anyone else's opinions to bias my own, and if I miss things, well, I miss things because I haven't done my research. I was literally just sitting here and I wanted to do this. So what I've done is I've dug out every card that I feel there is some controversy behind, and I figure, hey, why not? Let's have a little talk about them. So the first card I'm going to talk about is the relevance of High Priestess of Prophecy. I should probably include Justice in this discussion as well. High Priestess, originally when Judgment was announced, where this deck came out, this card was the, like, you had to play this. You had to play this in 3, you had to have it, otherwise you were going to lose. When Judgment came out, it was still the same mentality. You had to have this. It jumped to a $100 card. I don't know what that is in pounds, like 60 quid in pounds, 70 quid. And now, kind of just after Euros, going into US Nationals, this card is almost redundant. Loads of people are saying you don't have to play this, and you shouldn't play this, and it's bad to play this. And to talk about its pros and cons, High Priestess is really good because of his body. It's bigger than any other Prophecy monster or a spellcaster monster that you're going to be playing in your deck. It's 2500 beta that can also banish a spellbook from your grave or hand and kill a card on the field, and that is a really fundamental effect. And that's kind of its plus points. It's just a massive beta. It can be charged up with power, all sorts. It's basically, originally when you played this deck, you would play Priestess and just play Protect the Priestess and power it up with all your books. You made Priestess do whatever you wanted it to do in tandem with your spell books. Now, with Judgment, there are so many resources, you don't even need a body this big. You can start with things like Spellbook Magician or Kaiku and get things that big. And kind of Justice falls into this. The thing about playing Priestess is, ultimately, sometimes it can be really, really dead. And the same kind of goes for Justice. And I really like Justice as a card. I love the fact that it is basically a +1 in this deck. But at the same time, to play Justice, you have to play Priestesses. And that is kind of the problem. Like, I have drawn Priestesses quite dead before. As you can see, I don't have 3 anymore. I've sold 1 off because I don't enjoy playing 3. 2 is my very maximum, and I'm currently testing 1, much like the Nationals build. So the Euros build, but I'm not sure how I feel about these. But at the moment, a lot of people are insisting they're dead, and I really like the simplified version that just plays power up the Kaiku and protect the Kaiku. But I don't know, I might end up going back to the Priestess variant, but a lot of people have been talking about why they dislike Priestess, and kind of that's my 2 cents. I think it's still a very good card in its own right, but I think the builds have to be very dedicated to it, and this deck it feels a lot more consistent without the Priestess. So continuing on into the kind of pile of cards, we're going to talk about Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. Now, pretty much every Prophecy build is playing this card because it is the anti-meta card of the format. However, some Prophecy builds are playing far more than others. My build is playing 3. I'm playing 3 Kaiku as my main kind of boss beatstick type dude. Kaiku's effect is basically, if he inflicts battle damage, he's going to be banishing up to 2 monsters from your opponent's graveyard from play. And while he's out, your opponent can't remove cards from either player's graveyard. So this is very good against, to a very small extent, Evil Swarm, because it shuts down Cercion. Same goes for Constella. It's also incredibly good against, I've forgotten the name now, against just dragons, of course, because it means they can't banish from their graveyard. And it's very good in the Prophecy mirror because it means that they can't use their Priestess if they're playing their Priestess. They can't banish any cards from their graveyard. Well, basically from either player's graveyard. And they also, most importantly, cannot activate Spellbook of Fate. That is the big thing with this. It's also an 1800 body, and basically, there are so many monsters in the meta right now that aren't 1900. Like, the only thing that's 1900 is Thunder King and Heliotrope. as the only kind of meta cards that are played. So the moment you play Starhole and make this guy and put 1 counter on Starhole, this guy is bigger than any normal summonable monster in the meta. And of course, Kaiku comes into his own when he's combined with Jargon the Spiritualist. I mean, Jargon, I put this in here as a controversial card, but I only really wanted to talk about it in tandem with Kaiku. Some people I've seen have been playing 2 Jargons. I don't agree with 2 Jargons because I draw this guy enough as it is, but I really like 1. But Jargon in combination with Kaiku is really, really incredible because they can't, especially in the Dragon game, because the Dragon player can't special summon and they can't remove cards in the graveyard from play. Literally, all they can do is Blaster, and we're going to talk about an out to Blaster later on in this review. So Kaiku is becoming a really interesting staple. There are definitely Kaiku control decks doing the rounds. I mean, if you check my most recent deck profile, I talked about a Kaiku control, and I really quite enjoy the consistency this card offers and the real power it has over the meta. You basically drop this in the mirror and you're set, and you will usually win that mirror because all of a sudden the defensive powers of Fate are completely shut down, and the only thing they have left is T-Roar or Wabaku or Gagaga Shield. So those are the Ghost Destroyers, and that's my feelings on the Ghost Destroyer. I really, really like him. He's so impacting on the meta, and yeah, he does pretty good work. Then we have the Jargon. Of course, I'm only going to dwell on this for a moment. The fact that some people are playing 2, I really don't like playing 2 because when you draw this, it's so bad. But Jargon is Jargon. Then we're going to talk about Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi is something that I'm playing at 2 in the main deck, and a lot of people aren't even playing any in the main, and they're playing them inside. Tsukuyomi is in the same boat as Psyblocker. I'd bring one out, but I don't know where my Psyblockers are. Tsukuyomi, it basically fulfills the same role as Psyblocker. It completely shuts down whatever cards you want to shut down, and the majority of them are going to be monsters in the form of Kaiku and Jargon. Those are basically the 2 biggest things. This is also way better than Psyblocker in this deck because of the way that it's a spellcaster, so it can work with any of your spellbooks. It's able to flip face down, pick some of your own cards, like your Spellbook Magician or your Jargon, so that you can fate it back up in your end phase, so you can get a special summon off of your Judgment if you're going quite large off of Judgment. So you can flip the Jargon face down in the end phase, add a Fate, flip it face up with a Fate. You can do so many things with Tsukuyomi, and I really enjoy the kind of power it offers. So a lot of people don't like running this in the main. That's what confuses me. I suppose it's much better in the main in the Kaiku control build, because of course you don't have access to the High Priestess of Prophecy to just blow stuff off the field, so you need to have ways outside of Fate to try and deal with your opponent's monsters. Even if it just gets them face down, it's negating their continuous effects, and that can be really all you need. So Tsukuyomis, that's all I'm going to dwell on those for. I only put the Judgments in here because they're Judgments, and I keep on getting controversial remarks on the fact that I play 2, because I only have 2. I think that you only need 2 to play the deck. If you want to be cheap, you can call this deck cheap. If you want to be cheap, you can play it with 2, but I'm looking for a 3rd, but that's the only reason the Judgments are in here. Also, ridiculously bent. Whoever I got them from really didn't treat them well, so I still need to binder those up and debend them. Then we're going to talk about a card that's been quite interesting and really pisses me off in Dawn of Noah because no one understands its rulings in tandem with Judgment. Play 3 Spellbook Library of the Crescent. So I'm just checking the camera angle. I want to make sure that I haven't just been talking out my ass and no one can actually see anything. 3 Spellbook Library of the Crescent. Library of the Crescent, I'm going to read it. Reads, if you have no spell cards in your graveyard, and this is an activation clause, so you have to have no spellbooks engraved to activate it. Its resolution has nothing to do with that. You can then, once it's activated, reveal 3 spellbook spell cards with different names from your deck. Your opponent will randomly add one of them to your hand. My preferential way of adding one at random to hand is just to shuffle them face down and have your opponent roll a dice with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mechanic. So it's kind of the most random because it's meant to be selected by your opponent, but it's also going to be completely at random, so just keeps it fair. Your opponent then randomly adds one to your hand. The rest are shuffled back into the deck, and for that turn you can only activate spellbook spell cards. You can't activate other spell cards. So a lot of people have been playing 3, a lot of people have been playing 2, and a lot of people have been playing none of this card. Some people think this card is absolutely awful because of the if you have no spellbook spell cards in your graveyard clause, but it bumps your good opening hand consistency stuff from 6 to 9, because normally you're playing 3 Magician and 3 Secrets that can search you anything. This thing adds another 3 consistency cards to the deck. This card can either add you, you'll usually go, if you have none of the above in hand, you'll usually go, play this, go for Secrets Judgment Secrets Judgment Master, and only go for the Master if you have a Spellcaster in hand. So if they add the Secrets to hand, great, you can add whatever you want. If they add the Judgment to hand, great, you're good to go off. If they add the Master to hand, because of the mechanic with Master, and I should probably include this in the video, because of the mechanic with Master, this is then able to be activated again. If you summon a spellcaster, you can activate Master, which activates as itself, and then copy something in resolution. So it's activating as Master, which skips the if you have no spellbook spell cards activation clause, which is at the cost timing if you check the colon. God, I'm spewing out the rulings. You can skip that because that's not the you're activating as Master and you're resolving as Library of the Crescent. So you resolve as its reveal 3 spellbook aspect of the card, which is something that a lot of people seem to miss out on. So Master lets you basically try again, and at that point I will usually, because I have a spellcaster in play, I will usually then, instead of going for the Master off of this, I'll go for Secrets, Judgment, and Tower. So if I had the Tower to hand, it at least gives me a double draw next turn and putting something back in the deck. But like, I really like this card. I'm playing it at 3, and I really love the consistency it offers. But I can understand the players who think it's bad. And kind of to play devil's advocate on this, the reason why I would think it is bad is because basically if you draw this anywhere basically past the first turn, it's dead. But it's in there to add that consistency first turn and just to give you that more of a push on the first turn to just get yourself ready and set up. So it's a good card, but it can have some real drawbacks towards late game. If I'm going to add over the if I'm going to add with Judgment in a way that will put me over 6 and put me to 7-8 cards in hand, my 7th and 8th cards will always be 2 Crescents from the deck. So just so I can discard them both straight to the graveyard, so they're never going to be dead draws. So, like, that's the way I deal with their dead drawing mechanic. I just try and overcharge a Judgment to fish them out. Then, something that is another controversy is the number of Starholes that some people play. I'm personally playing 3 Starhole because I'm playing the Kaiku build. My biggest natural monster is an 1800 in the main. Starhole is great, and it puts in so much work throughout the game, and I really like this mechanic. A lot of Kaiku players play 2. I just really like the 3. Simply because of the fact that once you've got 3 on board, they charge so much, so easily. Like, 3 spellbooks is 900. Well, that was awkward, camera died. But basically, long story short, once you've got these 3 in play all at once, it really does come into its own. It really does put quite a lot of power out. That's all you really need to say about Starhole. Like, the 3 complement themselves. And also, another thing that I should really comment on is in the mirror match, it is incredible simply because it lets you... completely lost them now. Lets you add this guy because it's a spellcaster to your hand. Basically, in the mirror match, this can't be destroyed. It can only be fated. If it's destroyed, this gets added to the hand and your opponent basically loses. So it's really quite nice in the mirror. Also, like, mirror really does quickly become Starhole battles. Like, whoever has the biggest Starhole. And then I'm going to talk about the final 2 normal, like, non-spellbook spell cards that I play in my deck currently. I play Storm, but Storm is something I don't want to go into at the moment. I play One Day of Peace and Book of Moon. Book of Moon is insane in tandem with this guy. Especially if you have Spellbook of Judgment already played. What you usually want to do is, say you have, like, we'll ignore the rest of the cards in hand, and we have this hand. We have this hand. We're then going to go, because we are confident that, like, our opponent has no backer, we're going first, but we're fairly sure they're playing E-Dragon, so they're playing 3 Veilers. We're going to go Judgment, so we're now counting with Judgment. We'll just put this count down here. We can then summon your Magician. Even if they have the Veiler, you almost want them to have it, so you can activate this. If they have the Veiler, you can then immediately book this, which will count as 1 towards your Judgment. And you're then going to immediately be able to then search out your secrets off of your Magician's effect anyway. So they've minused their Veiler. And yes, you've technically minused your book, but you're now completely set up. Their Veiler is gone for the most part. Your book has charged this to 1 already, and then you're able to Secrets, Master, Tower, you've gone to 4, and you can just go off from there. So book really complements this really well, and then it also helps you deal with other problems, like it helps you deal with, you can have this set and respond to the summon of a side blocker or things like that. You can have this set and respond to an attack to protect your guy. You can have this set, and when they attack this, you can flip it and get a book if you need it. It just adds so much. It's just so versatile within the deck. I really like the way it works. And One Day of Peace, it's kind of a play with Spellbook of Judgment. It's the fact that One Day of Peace is normally a -1 to you because it gives your opponent +1. Spellbook of Judgment in tandem with this allows you to even it out, and it basically says I can play and add loads of stuff to my hand and not have to set any of it in the end phase because I know I can't lose because I can't be burned to death or I can't be attacked to death this turn. So it basically means that A, in tandem with Judgment, it turns this into a -0 and you can't die this turn, which is quite good. And it lets you basically have a free turn of setup, it lets you add everything to your hand and not worry. And otherwise, it's just in tough situations, you can literally just play this and go, okay, I can't die. Like, when you're in a losing situation, you just go, I can't die. So, I really like its power in this deck. I really like its versatility, and it's a card that I wouldn't take out. I was originally playing it in tandem with 3 Upstart Goblins because it served the same purpose as Upstart Goblin, but now it's just kind of come into its own. Now I'm going to talk about a few of the defensive traps that I play in the deck. I'm currently juggling between 3 different types of defensive trap. I'm juggling between Waboku, Gagaya Shield, which is probably the card that you won't recognise, and Threatening Roar. These all have their own plus-minus points, so this is why this video is going to be so long. Waboku is an amazing card because it basically allows your opponent... It allows you to respond to your opponent's attack in a way that says your monster is not going to die. Your monster is impossible to kill, and you can't take damage this turn, so you can't be OTK'd. It is better than Threatening Roar because it allows your Magicians to be flipped, it allows your Tsukuyomis to be flipped, it allows for so many different interesting plays. It allows you to almost crash into something and not take damage. It allows you to crash into something and not take damage if you should ever need to. Whereas Threatening Roar is a lot more enclosed, but at the same time it completely stops them from attacking because this won't stop a Lind crashing into you to make a lead that can eventually make a Big Eye or something like that. Whereas this can stop those kind of attack and crash plays. So these have their own plus points, but at the moment I'm leaning further towards Waboku because of its mechanic in tandem with a set Spellbound Magician. But a card which I recently saw being played in one of Lithium2300's videos was Gagaya Shield. Stefan Slewis was playing this in his Spellbook build, I believe I saw. And its effect reads, target 1 face-up... When you activate it, target 1 face-up spellcaster monster you control, equip this card to that target, and twice per turn, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So that makes your Kaikus and things like that especially hardy, and your Jargon especially hardy, because it means that twice per turn, they can't be destroyed. So that means that your opponent can attack your Jargon with Reactan and try to blaster it, and they still won't be able to kill it. They have to have MST, and dragons don't main MST. So what you do is they go to blaster it, you then Gagaya Shield. You know, they go to blaster your Jargon, you go Gagaya Shield. Even if they then have the Reactan, they still can't kill it. And I just like this card instead of Safe Zone, just because it's... You run out of space on your board, so you want your cards to go away sometimes And also, I don't know, I just really have a lot of preference between this, for this over Safe Zone. I mean, my monster's going to still attack directly with this, whereas with Safe Zone they can't. So, I really like Gagaya Shield at the moment. I'm currently playing as my traps, 1 Gagaya Shield, 2 Waboku, but I'm currently really toying with the idea of bumping up to 2 Gagaya Shield, 2 Waboku, but it's just a matter of finding the space, really. But those are definitely cards that I'm testing. And then, the Drawn and Lock Words are only in here to talk about the Star Hole mechanic. These cards are so good. But at the same time, some people have decried them, and there's a lot of indecision on how best to use this in the mirror. I personally quite like saving this until my opponent has gone kind of Judgment Day, and then when they secrets, I like them secrets, and then when they master, I let them master. So no, I let them secrets, adding the master, and then I will draw them there, because the master will then usually be dead, and they've spent their judgment, and they're going to get no return on their judgment, and the secrets has basically proved to put them in quite a sticky situation. So I personally like waiting until they've judgmented, and they've played the secrets, but of course sometimes you really have to be adaptable depending on the plays they've made. And then the final card I want to talk about before I move on to one formation, which a friend of mine wanted me to talk about in my last video, but I completely forgot to mention. I really like Decree in the Side in this deck. Decree in the Side helps so much against the Macrocosmos and the Eradicator virus. If you have this against Evil Swarm, it's great because it deals with so many of their back row cards and the ever-present threat of the Eradicator Epidemic Virus, which is very common at my locals, so you need to have the Decree for that. It's also very good against some variants of E-Dragons, especially in Game 2, especially if you've seen their Eradicator going in, or if you've seen it in Game 2 and you're siding Game 3. It deals with their not threatening rules. Breakthrough skills if they're playing breakthrough skill, because some dragon players play breakthrough, and it helps deal with the eradicator. And you just want to have these for the eradicator threat, because yes, while these will sometimes be dead, the fact that eradicator will basically immediately lose you the game, you have to play these even if they're dead for most of the game. You have to protect for the eradicator. And then I should probably talk about something that's a lock play against dragons, apparently. Well, an unstoppable play unless they have Blaster. And it's unstoppable if you have your Gaga Shield. The formation of Shining Elf Jargon, because I didn't talk about this in my last video. Basically, if you have a board that looks like this, Shining Elf, Jargon, your opponent can't summon a monster big enough to kill your Jargon. Because, dragon players can't summon a monster big enough to kill the Jargon. The biggest monster they main, that can be normal summoned, really, off of a single normal summon, is Reactan. And when the Reactan comes out, you simply pop a material off your Shining Elf, dropping the Reactan to 1300, which means it's smaller than your Jargon and can't get past it. So this formation is near perfect. I mean, you don't even need the Kaiku at this stage. All you'll really need if you want to have the perfect lock is this. If you have a board of this, or even this, no, that's not going to help. If you have a board of this, it deals with the Blaster. If you have the Gaga Shield set, it'll deal with the Blaster wherever they try to put it. And otherwise, yeah, they just can't get past this. This basically wins you the game, this formation. And that was what you wanted me to talk about. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about now is my Trollsy card, which I play in the extra deck, which everyone's going to hate me for. But I played one Alchemic Magician, and I've summoned it once, and it was amazing. The fact that I summoned this with 10 Spellbooks in Graveyard, it came out on 35, and it then let me start setting cards like my Book of Moon, just to start protecting it, and it was so good. This was so damn good, and I just had loads of fun with it. So Alchemic Magician is a really cool card. But yeah, guys, this has been my kind of prophecy discussion video. Forgive me if I've dithered a bit and some of the stuff I've said is probably stupid, but I felt like having a discussion and actually talking to you about my thoughts on prophecy. And hey, it's a video from me. I don't make videos that often anymore, so forgive me. But yeah, otherwise this has been Jamie the Kid 00. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Bye.